In a world where digital wildfires spread faster than facts and one explosive rumor can ignite global chaos, welcome to Joff Desk, your frontline defense against the spin, delivering unfiltered truth with the clarity you deserve. Tonight, we zero in on a blockbuster hoax that's rocked headlines, the so-called confirmation of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's death in an Iranian strike. Is it a game changer or just smoke and mirrors? Buckle up as we unravel the threads. The assertion that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been confirmed killed in an Iranian attack represents one of the most rapidly circulating pieces of disinformation to emerge from the intensified Israel-Iran shadow war that escalated dramatically in late 2025 and carried into early 2026. The assertion that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been confirmed killed in an Iranian attack represents one of the most rapidly circulating pieces of disinformation to emerge from the intensified Israel-Iran shadow war that escalated dramatically in late 2025 and carried into early 2026. Within hours of Iranian state-affiliated media channels and affiliated Telegram groups beginning to push variations of the claim, often accompanied by grainy stills purportedly showing smoke rising from what was described as the Prime Minister's office compound in Jerusalem or a nearby secure residence, the phrase "Netanyahu dead Iran missile" trended across multiple languages on platforms including X, TikTok, Instagram, and WhatsApp groups in the Middle East and South Asia. The wording in the title itself mirrors almost verbatim the sensationalized headlines that appeared on low-credibility aggregator sites, certain pro-Iran Telegram channels, and even a handful of hastily created faux news domains registered in the preceding weeks. These outlets frequently reused identical phrasing: breaking, confirmation of Netanyahu's death from an Iran attack, usually paired with an outdated or contextually unrelated photograph of the Prime Minister, or an explosion somewhere in Israel from months earlier. What makes this particular claim especially potent is its deliberate mimicry of legitimate breaking news structure. The word confirmation carries heavy journalistic weight. It implies multiple independent verifications, official statements, and cross-checked sourcing, none of which existed in reality. In contrast, every major Israeli outlet, Haaretz, Yedioth Ahronoth, Israel Hayom, Kan 11, Channel 12, Channel 13, international wire services, Reuters, AFP, AP, and Western broadcasters with permanent bureaus in Jerusalem, BBC, CNN, Sky News, France 24, Deutsche Welle, issued either silence on the death rumor or explicit debunkings within the first 12 to 18 hours. No death announcement came from the Prime Minister's office, the IDF spokesperson's unit, the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Knesset, or any member of Netanyahu's immediate family or inner security circle. Instead, spokespeople for the Prime Minister released short, pointed denials characterizing the Iranian origin reports as psychological warfare and classic regime disinformation. The absence of any corroborating visual evidence further undermines the claim. In an era where smartphone footage, drone imagery, and live satellite passes are routinely available within minutes of high-profile incidents, not a single verifiable photograph, video clip, or geolocated still emerged, showing a direct strike on Netanyahu himself or conclusive proof of his demise. The images that did circulate, showing fire and smoke over Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, were almost invariably recycled from earlier Iranian missile barrages in October 2024, or from unrelated incidents such as the Houthi drone attack on Eilat or internal Israeli training accidents. Reverse image searches performed by fact-checking organizations quickly traced most of the viral visuals back to stock footage libraries or previous conflict archives. Moreover, the timing of the rumor's peak dissemination aligned suspiciously with moments of maximum strategic embarrassment for Tehran. Iranian ballistic missile salvos, while causing civilian casualties and property damage in several Israeli cities including Beit Shemesh, Rehovot, and Rishon LeZion, failed to achieve any militarily significant penetration of Israel's multi-layered air defense architecture, Arrow, David Sling, Iron Dome. The IRGC's announcement of a successful surprise operation targeting the Zionist enemy's command center therefore required an accompanying narrative victory. Declaring the Israeli leader dead, even without proof, served that purpose by shifting domestic and regional attention away from the operational shortcomings of the K-Bar Shekan and Fatah series missiles that constituted the bulk of the barrage. The life cycle of this falsehood began almost exclusively within Iran's tightly controlled information ecosystem before spilling outward through sympathetic or opportunistic amplifiers. Initial posts carrying the death claim appeared on accounts linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps official Telegram channels, IRIB-affiliated Persian language outlets, and semi-official Farsi Twitter X handles that have long served as mouthpieces for hardline factions within the regime. One early variant, posted shortly after the missile launch window closed, read in Persian, "With God's help, the criminal Netanyahu met his fate in tonight's blessed operation," accompanied by an emoji of an explosion and a Palestinian flag. Within minutes, near-identical messages, sometimes machine-translated into Arabic, Urdu, Turkish, and English, began appearing on pro-Hezbollah, pro-Houthi, and pro-Hamas accounts, creating the illusion of organic, multi-source confirmation. Viral mechanics then took over. Accounts with followings in the tens or hundreds of thousands, many based in Pakistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen, and diaspora communities in Europe, reposted the claim without attribution or with minimal embellishment. The algorithm-friendly format, short text T plus dramatic still image plus urgent language, ensured exponential spread. By the time English language versions gained traction, the rumor had already accumulated millions of views, retweets, shares, and quote tweets, many from users who simply reacted with celebratory emojis or nationalistic slogans rather than demanding evidence. Hashtags such as Netanyahu dead, Iran strikes back, Justice for Gaza, and the End Zionism trended regionally, further boosting visibility irrespective of factual accuracy. Iranian state media played a dual role. Direct outlets such as Press TV and Tasnim News initially refrained from outright declaring Netanyahu deceased, but used suggestive language: uncertain fate, direct hit on decision-making center, severe blow to the Zionist regime's head. That left ample room for proxies and aligned influencers to fill in the lethal conclusion. This plausible deniability tactic is a well-documented pattern in Tehran's information operations during periods of kinetic escalation. By allowing unofficial voices to make the bolder assertion while state organs stop short of explicit confirmation, the regime maintains a veneer of restraint while still harvesting the propaganda benefit. The complete lack of substantiation from established journalistic institutions stands as the most decisive indicator that the death claim holds no factual basis. Major Israeli broadcasters and newspapers, which maintain constant real-time coverage of national security events and maintain direct lines to government and military officials, carried no reports of the prime minister's demise. Outlets such as Haaretz, which often critiques Netanyahu's policies sharply, Yedioth Ahronoth with its wide circulation, Israel Hayom aligned closely with the government, and public broadcaster Khan 11 all refrained from any mention of a confirmed assassination or fatality involving the leader. Instead, their live blogs and breaking news sections focused on missile interceptions, civilian casualties in locations like Beit Shemesh, where 9 people perished from an Iranian strike, damage assessments in central Israel, and Netanyahu's own directives for escalating operations against Iranian targets. International agencies followed suit. Reuters maintained a dedicated live feed on the Israel-Iran exchanges without ever inserting a line about Netanyahu being killed. The Associated Press issued updates on strikes, casualties, and diplomatic fallout, but nothing on a leadership vacuum in Jerusalem. AFP's dispatches similarly detailed the barrage dynamics and responses without validating any personal targeting success against the prime minister. Western television networks with Jerusalem correspondents, CNN's Bureau, BBC's Middle East team, Sky News, France 24, and Deutsche Welle provided wall-to-wall coverage of the missile salvos, air defense activations, and Netanyahu's public vows to intensify the campaign, yet none broadcast or published any sourced confirmation of his death. In fact, several aired segments featuring his recent statements, including a Fox News interview where he described the conflict duration as limited rather than endless, emphasizing quick and decisive action to eliminate what he termed an existential threat from Iran's regime. Al Jazeera, frequently critical of Israeli actions, reported on the escalations and Iranian claims but stopped short of endorsing the fatality assertion, noting instead the absence of Israeli acknowledgement. Even outlets in the Arab world and those sympathetic to Iran's position, such as Al Mayadeen or certain Lebanese channels, amplified the IRGC's suggestive language about an unclear fate, but did not cross into outright confirmation with attributable evidence. The silence from these sources is not mere omission. It reflects rigorous verification protocols during high-stakes conflicts. Newsrooms apply multi-source corroboration standards especially stringently for claims involving the death of a sitting head of government in an active war zone. No on-the-record statement emerged from Netanyahu's family. No emergency Knesset session convened to address succession under Israel's continuity laws. No flags lowered to half-mast at official buildings, and no diplomatic cables or foreign ministry briefings signaled a change in leadership. In contrast, when Iranian state media later acknowledged the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in Israeli-U.S. strikes, multiple global outlets reported it promptly with citations from Iranian channels and U.S. confirmations, illustrating how credible fatalities receive swift, cross-verified coverage. The Iranian claim itself relied on a video from an IRGC spokesman broadcast via Fars news agency, asserting that Khaybar Shikan missiles achieved a direct hit on Netanyahu's office compound in Jerusalem and another site linked to the Air Force chief. Yet this statement contained no visual proof, no coordinates, no damage imagery specific to the alleged target, and no follow-up evidence of secondary explosions or rescue operations indicative of a high-value kill. Credible media require such corroboration. Satellite imagery from commercial providers like Maxar showing precise strike locations, geolocated citizen videos, or official admissions for high-impact claims. None materialized here. Fact-checking units embedded in major organizations, including those at the Times of Israel, which explicitly labeled the Iranian assertion fake news in a live blog entry, highlighted the discrepancy between Tehran's boast and the absence of any matching fallout in Israeli reporting or public life. Dedicated fact-checking operations converged quickly to dismantle the narrative, drawing on established methodologies to trace origins, evaluate evidence, and issue clear verdicts. The Times of Israel published a direct rebuttal in its live coverage, quoting Netanyahu's office calling the Iranian military spokesman's video claim fake news, while contextualizing it amid the broader missile exchange. The outlet emphasized that no independent verification supported the unclear fate phrasing, and subsequent updates showed Netanyahu actively directing operations rather than any disruption from a leadership crisis. Tempo.co in Indonesia conducted a thorough investigation, concluding the March 3, 2026, rumor of death in an Iranian attack was false after examining circulating videos and images, determining many were AI-generated or manipulated. Their analysis noted Netanyahu's appearance on a Fox News Live YouTube broadcast that same day, providing direct counter-evidence through video timestamps and content where he discussed war timelines and regime change goals in Iran. Wyon News ran a detailed fact-check feature addressing viral social media allegations of assassination or even flight to Germany, deeming them unverified and false due to zero official confirmation. They highlighted a PMO statement confirming Netanyahu met with the defense minister, chief of staff, and Mossad director in Tel Aviv shortly after the rumored strike window, underscoring operational continuity. Dubawa, operating in African and global contexts, explicitly rated the claim that Netanyahu died false, pointing to the absence of any Israeli media or governmental announcement and contrasting it with verified reports of Khamenei's elimination. Soch Fact Check and similar regional verifiers in South Asia traced Urdu and Arabic forwards to recycled explosion footage from prior barrages, labeling the death narrative disinformation amplified without proof. These fact checks employed reverse image searches, metadata analysis on viral clips, timeline reconstructions of the missile launches versus Netanyahu's known activities, and cross-referencing against primary sources like government press releases. For instance, the Prime Minister's office issued statements vowing continued strikes, and official channels documented his visit to the Palmakim Air Base on March 3rd, where he briefed with military leaders, praised UAV operators, and reiterated commitments to escalating pressure on Tehran and addressing Hezbollah's involvement. Such public engagements, accompanied by photographs, video remarks, and ministerial presence, directly contradicted any notion of fatality or incapacitation. The consensus across these independent verifiers reinforced that the rumor functioned as classic wartime propaganda, designed to project strength domestically in Iran while sowing confusion among Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, released a statement via affiliated channels like Fars news agency and Telegram on March 2, 2026, asserting that its forces executed a coordinated surprise operation in retaliation for prior U.S.-Israeli strikes. The IRGC specifically declared that Khaybar Shikan, also spelled K-bar Shikan or Khyber, ballistic missiles achieved direct hits on two high-value targets, the office compound of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem and the reported residence or headquarters linked to Israeli Air Force Chief Tomer Bar. A military spokesman appeared in a video statement broadcast through semi-official outlets, describing the attack as a blessed and precise response that penetrated Israeli defenses, using the solid-fuel, medium-range Khaybar Shikan missiles known for their maneuverability and claimed ability to evade interception systems like Arrow and David's Sling. The statement emphasized the missile's hypersonic-like capabilities in some descriptions, though technical analyses note the Khaibar Shikan as a quasi-ballistic weapon with ranges around 1,450 kilometers, designed for saturation strikes against fortified sites. The IRGC framed the operation as part of an ongoing series of retaliatory waves, provocatively noting that Netanyahu's fate remained unclear post-strike, implying potential success in eliminating or severely injuring the prime minister without providing any visual proof, geolocation data, or secondary evidence such as explosion footage specific to the claimed targets. No missile impacts were reported in Jerusalem itself around the time of the claimed strike window, with Israeli air raid sirens activating, but defenses reportedly handling incoming threats over the capital and surrounding areas without confirmed breaches at government buildings. Netanyahu's Prime Minister's Office, PMO, issued a swift and categorical denial within hours of the IRGC announcement, labeling the entire claim, including the purported direct hit on his office and any suggestion of his uncertain status, as fake news designed for psychological impact. The dismissal came via official channels and was echoed in live updates from Israeli media, stressing that no such strike reached the targeted locations and highlighting the absence of damage or casualties at the prime minister's compound. Israeli military spokespeople reinforced this by reporting successful interceptions during the barrage, with no injuries tied to a Jerusalem government site strike, and air defenses activating routinely without indication of penetration at high-profile leadership facilities. The response framed the Iranian assertion as classic regime propaganda aimed at projecting strength amid operational shortfalls, especially after Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei was confirmed killed in earlier Israeli-US strikes, shifting focus from Tehran's losses. Netanyahu himself continued public activities without interruption, including statements vowing intensified operations against Iran, meetings with defense and intelligence chiefs in Tel Aviv, and a documented visit to the missile impact site in Beit Shemesh, where civilian deaths occurred, further underscoring continuity of command and personal safety. The PMO's pointed rebuttal aligned with broader Israeli strategy to counter disinformation rapidly during escalations, preventing rumor amplification while maintaining operational secrecy on defense performance. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu demonstrated clear operational continuity by personally visiting the site of a deadly Iranian missile strike in Beit Shemesh on March 2, 2026, where 9 civilians, including 3 siblings, were killed and others injured on March 1st. Accompanied by military officials and security personnel, he surveyed the structural damage, offered condolences to grieving families, wished speedy recovery to the wounded, and pledged government assistance for rebuilding affected homes. Handout photos from the government press office, GPO AV Ohio, captured him at the scene, standing amid the aftermath while addressing the media and those present. In his on-site statement during the 3rd day of Operation Roaring Lion, a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign, he condemned the Tehran regime for targeting innocents, contrasting it with Israel's defensive actions, and warned that if Iran's leadership obtained nuclear weapons and delivery systems like ballistic missiles, they would threaten not just Israel, but all of humanity. He framed the operation as protective for Israel, America, and the world, emphasizing collaboration with President Trump to thwart existential dangers. Netanyahu also highlighted broader goals, stating Israel aimed to create conditions for the Iranian people to overthrow their tyrannical regime after 47 years, urging them not to miss the opportunity for freedom and regime change. This public appearance, broadcast and photographed extensively, directly countered any notion of his incapacitation or absence following the alleged strike on his compound. In multiple public remarks around the same period, Netanyahu reiterated commitments to escalating military pressure on Iran while outlining strategic objectives. During the Beit Shemesh visit and in a separate Fox News interview on Hannity, he described the ongoing strikes as quick and decisive rather than an endless war, asserting the Iranian regime was at its weakest point in decades since seizing power. He stressed that the campaign, far more powerful than prior operations, targeted Revolutionary Guards facilities, ballistic missile sites, and other threats to eliminate the existential threat posed by a potential nuclear-armed Iran immune to counterstrikes. Netanyahu explained that without intervention, Iran could field tens of thousands of missiles and become untouchable, endangering Israel, U.S. forces, and global security. He positioned the actions as a gateway to peace, enabling Iranians to form a democratic government by casting off the oppressive yoke. In video messages and statements, he addressed the Iranian people directly, saying, "Help has arrived and you are not our enemies," while vowing the roar of Israeli forces would be heard worldwide. These appearances, including briefings with defense chiefs and Mossad leaders in Tel Aviv, plus documented site visits and media engagements, underscored his active leadership amid the escalations. The death rumors gained explosive traction precisely during the peak of the March 2026 Israel-Iran missile barrages, when nightly exchanges saw dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles launched toward Israeli cities and Israeli jets, striking deep into Iranian territory. Social media timelines filled with unverified clips of explosions over Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and other areas, often mislabeled as proof of a strike on Netanyahu's compound. The absence of concrete evidence, no crater photos at the alleged target, no emergency medical evacuations reported near government sites, no leaked security footage, and no disruption to Israeli command structures did nothing to slow the spread. Instead, the high-visibility chaos of the conflict provided fertile ground. Air raid sirens, shelter alerts, and real civilian casualties in places like Beit Shemesh created an atmosphere where sensational claims could blend seamlessly with verified events. Iranian state media and proxies amplified suggestive phrasing about direct hits on decision centers without specifics, allowing online users to interpret ambiguity as confirmation. The rumor peaked in regions already sympathetic to anti-Israel narratives, with shares spiking in Arabic, Persian, Urdu, and Turkish-speaking communities. Despite rapid fact checks and Israeli denials, the emotional charge of the ongoing war, fueled by reports of Khamenei's death and fears of wider escalation, kept the story alive in echo chambers long after credible outlets dismissed it. The propagation followed classic patterns of state-backed disinformation, originating in IRGC-linked Telegram and Fars news channels, then cascading through aligned influencers in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and diaspora networks before hitting broader platforms. Coordinated reposts used identical phrasing and recycled visuals from earlier barrages, creating artificial consensus. Bots and high-follower accounts boosted visibility with celebratory captions, while algorithms rewarded emotional, urgent content over nuance. In conflict zones, misinformation thrives on speed. Claims outpace corrections by hours or days. Israeli officials countered quickly, but the initial vacuum allowed millions of views. Established sources like Reuters, AP, BBC, Haaretz, and the Times of Israel consistently provided verified updates without endorsing the rumor, highlighting the importance of cross-referencing multiple reputable outlets. During fast-moving wars, single-source reports, especially from partisan channels, demand skepticism. Official statements, geolocated evidence, and continuity of leadership activities serve as reliable anchors against propaganda waves. Pulling it all together, this deep dive has exposed the rumor's rotten core. From its birth in unverified Iranian propaganda and viral social frenzy, through the ironclad debunkings by Israeli officials and global fact-checkers, to Netanyahu's unflinching public resolve amid real missile mayhem, vowing to dismantle existential threats while misinformation campaigns rage on without a scrap of evidence. It's a stark reminder of how falsehoods flourish in conflict's fog, preying on emotions, distorting realities, and underscoring why vigilance against single-source spin is our ultimate shield in these turbulent times. Here at Jeff Desk, we don't just report. We empower you to see through the storm. If this truth bomb lit a fire in you, subscribe now and hit that bell. Become part of the informed elite who cut the crap and stay steps ahead. Comment below. What's the biggest hoax you've spotted in this Israel-Iran saga? Let's keep the conversation real. Until next time, question everything. During fast-moving wars, single-source reports, especially from partisan channels, demand skepticism. Official statements, geolocated evidence, and continuity of leadership activities serve as reliable anchors against propaganda waves.